Mike, kick us off with your one-sentence summary of Steven Soderbergh's 2019 release, High Flying Bird.
During the NBA lockout, a crafty sports agent maneuvers between one power broker to the next, trying to protect his clients and maybe even free them from the greedy owners who've turned the game that he loves into nothing but a cynical business.
Welcome to the Filmographers podcast, where we study a director's entire career, one film at a time. I'm Keir Graff.
And I'm Michael Moreci. In our first season, we're turning the spotlight on Steven Soderbergh, one of Hollywood's most fascinating and versatile directors. Episode by episode, we discuss why each of his films succeeded or failed, always looking at them in the context of the Hollywood landscape at the time they were released.
Whether you've been joining us on our journey to watch and rewatch all of Soderbergh's movies, or you're just here for the basketball, welcome.
You want to get back on the court. And as your agent, I want to get you there. But we are in a lockout.
There are no actual games to watch.
You think these fools, these rich white dudes, gonna let these sexiest sport fall by the wayside?
This team's my family. I need us to be one big family again.
Football is fun, but it don't sell sneakers. To move merch and inspire rap lyrics, they need your services.
The NBA wanted control of a game that we played better. They invented a game on top of a game.
I can see a whole infrastructure that put the control back in the hands of those behind the ball.
What you gonna do?
But I'm about to pull up a chair.
Keir, you are not messing around today. Usually you kick off these episodes with like a one-act play.
And I enjoy those plays, Mike, especially when you're my scene partner. But it never hurts to mix it up once in a while.
That's very Soderberghian of you.
Watch the best, learn from the best. What did you think of High Flying Bird, Soderbergh's second film after 2018's Unsane, which we discussed in our last episode, to be shot on an iPhone?
Well, to be fair, Unsane was shot on an iPhone 7, and this was shot on an iPhone 8. So yeah, there's a lot going on here. And we'll get to that. We will get to that. But for now, let's talk about the movie itself, which I really, really enjoyed. I love sports movies. Some people may know this, some may not, but I'm an athlete myself. I grew up playing 3 sports a year, soccer to basketball to baseball. I ended up sticking with soccer as I got older, and I coach it currently at the high school and club level. My point in all that is that sports are a big part of my life. So movies like High Flying Bird either hit a important and meaningful groove with me, or I tend to completely dismiss them because they don't hit an important and meaningful groove with me. There's just not a lot of middle ground with sports films in me. Bird hit the former. I love how much it dug into what goes on behind the scenes of professional sports, in this case basketball. But I like that it went in the behind the scenes, not in a way that made it all seem so cynical. It has its fair share of cynicism, don't get me wrong, but a lesser movie would have leaned into that harder, let's say. Like the whole, but at the end of the day, it's all money and business. Like that whole thing, like that has been done. It's been done to death. And ultimately, like, no shits, that's what pro sports is. Like, we all know that. It's like watching like House of Cards, which I couldn't get through because it's ultimately like, aren't politics messed up? It's like, yeah.
I'm shocked to find that gambling is going on in my establishment.
Yeah, tell me more. But Bird does take a different approach in a way that only Soderbergh can do, that he made it human and human enough. He reminds us that, despite it all being business and money, and that's true, it's business and money operated and funneled through people. People, particularly the players, who have doubts and insecurities, ambitions and flaws, and most of all, passion for what they do. I love the interstitials of the actual players and the black and white talking about just what it's like to be a player, what it's like personally to be a player, what it's like to live that life. I thought it was a great and essential touch, and the movie would have been much less without it. But we see through those players and through the characters, the actors who are playing characters and everybody in the film, we see how much the game itself matters. And we see how much it hurts when the game is taken away by people, in this case, and usually is the case, the owners, those people who don't care about it. Then on top of all that, you add the element of race, and you have something pretty effective and pretty adroit. And this it handles it in a really, really confident and interesting way. There's a great quote in the movie that Andre Holland shares with Bill Duke, the great Bill Duke, who I adore. He says, "How do you show a man his humanity?" And the answer is, you remind him of his mortality, i.e., in this case, you take the game away or you take the power away. I adore that quote. Yes, sports is a business, but it's only allowed to be successful as a business because it's built on the love and passion of those who play it. And we should never, for myriad reasons, we should never forget that. And also forget the race component that is very, very much alive and true and accurate in this movie. So High Flying Bird is definitely a hit for me. I've seen it a few times now. I really, really enjoy it for a lot of reasons. Keir, how about you?
Wow, I love your thoughts about it. And I particularly, I think, centering the passion for the game, I think is something that is so important to this movie. I think I admired this one more than I truly liked it. And I didn't dislike it. I wanted to like it more than I did. It's funny. I feel like it's a movie I should like more than I did. So some of what I'm going to say is kind of like almost like a mea culpa for why I didn't get into it more. One of the things I did admire a lot was the terrific cast and their performances. I thought Andre Holland, who's from Moonlight and The Knick, is just so great to watch as Agent Ray Burke. He is alive. He's electric. It's a very talkative, very verbal film. He delivers his lines just with this kind of Spitfire energy or something. He's terrific. Zazie Beetz from Easy and Atlanta and Deadpool. I feel like she was present a lot in the movie, but her character was kind of more passive and reactive. But I thought she did well with what she's got. I find her just magnetic. She's got great screen presence.
Yeah, she does.
And her name is incredibly fun to say. I mean, I can just say that all day long. Zazie Beetz. That's one of the great ones. Sonia Sohn, a legend for her role as Greggs in The Wire, plays the players' union representative, and it was just so good. I feel like I don't see her in very much stuff, and it's just where I can look her up. I don't know where she's been, but she's great. I love her. I thought she was great in this. So happy to see her. She had really good interplay with Holland in their scenes.
Yeah,
in particular.
I agree. Yeah.
Even my man Kyle MacLachlan from Twin Peaks and Showgirls in Portlandia has a brief but memorable turn as a slimy establishment suit. His power move of blasting his nostrils in a sauna is wow. Never seen that before, but it was effective.
Like making Andre Holland get up and move, and his whole theatricality of entering the sauna is like just one dick move after another.
Yeah, it's funny because he built his career mostly on playing kind of likable guys, but he shows he can play a likable seeming but complete turd as well.
Range, baby.
Yeah, he's got range and a chin for the ages. He and Bruce Campbell should have a chin off. And Melvin Gregg, who plays the young basketball phenom, who I guess was like an Instagram comedy star or something prior to that, before he was cast. I don't really know much about his career, but he was interesting. I thought he was good because he didn't overplay it. He didn't try too hard. Like he was kind of in the pocket as far as his performance. Like he seemed convincing as kind of a young, befuddled guy.
Yeah, and it's another, and we don't have to go down this path too far, but like it's another interesting non-professional choice. Soderbergh, and he does this all the time.
Yeah, and one of the strengths, absolutely, of Soderbergh's career is his casting ability to cast the right people and then let them do what they do. So yeah, so I love the casting. I thought the performances were uniformly strong. Oh, Bill Duke, I forgot to mention Bill Duke. Bill Duke is great as this kind of mentor figure, this old coach who like helps identify talent and is kind of the voice of conscience. He's got a great call and refrain that doesn't really work for me as a white man to say. But let's just say, watch the movie and you'll enjoy it.
Yes.
So the plot, which centers around Agent Burke's Hail Mary shot to unlock an NBA lockout to save his job and his clients, is tight. And Soderbergh plays it as a con or a heist that Ray is running on the people around him. And the con is that Ray scares the NBA into thinking the players are going to set up their own league and profit off their own talent. And I like that idea. But I feel like Soderbergh was kind of trying to have it both ways here, which is to tell a gripping sports drama and score some philosophical points. Intercut with the fictional story are brief interviews, as you alluded to, with some 3 real NBA pros who talk about the pitfalls of being rookie ballers. I find it interesting that for you, you felt like they made the movie. Soderbergh certainly felt the same way. Certainly opinions I can respect. For me, they broke the fourth wall and kind of hurt the drama. And it also kind of reminded me of why Soderbergh was kicked off Moneyball, which was that he wanted to have this hybrid kind of quasi-documentary story, and the producers wanted to make a Hollywood hit.
Soderbergh never quits.
He does not, does he? We know from Behind the Candelabra, as well as other projects, that once he gets an idea he likes, he carries it with him until he can put it into practice. Although, in a weird side note, Soderbergh claims it was a collaborator who reminded him of what he had planned to do with Moneyball, these interview documentary style segments. And he was like, what a great idea. However it happened, we can argue that he finally made his version of Moneyball. And it's interesting. Like I said, I admire it. It's pretty good. It's especially timely when you think about the racism that Colin Kaepernick was experiencing around the time it came out. But I felt more invested in it intellectually than I did emotionally. And maybe that's on me. Like, maybe I'm the rube who wants sports movie things out of a sports movie. And that obviously wasn't the project here. Soderbergh, Holland, and screenwriter Terrell Alvin McCraney are obviously out to make a point about racism and control in the world of professional sports, and basketball in particular. And they make that point like they got fouled shooting a three-pointer, made the basket anyway, and then sank the free throw. 4 points for one shot. But I don't think that they made a movie that really outlasted its moment. And I think it can be a little hard to follow what's going on. The dialogue is so rapid fire. McCraney was a playwright in addition to being a screenwriter. It's super crafted.
Yeah.
It's less naturalistic than it is kind of dramatic. It feels play-like at times, and that's okay. I know I'm going on forever, but like, one more beef. Basketball. Like, I know this is really about exploitation, but it's set in the specific arena of basketball with characters who are supposed to be extraordinarily talented young players. One of the climactic scenes is a one-on-one grudge match in a school gym, and they hardly play. Like, we're not shown the game. No one's basketball ability is shown to be particularly convincing, especially Ray, who delivers lines while bricking shots from the middle of the key. And I can see Soderbergh making this intellectual decision, saying, I'm going to make a sports movie, but not only am I not going to include a buzzer-beating, game-winning basket, I'm not even going to have any exciting on-court action.
Now shoot with your legs, Ray. Come on.
Bend those knees. Bend those knees. And, so maybe he's implicating us as viewers, mirroring the lockout in the movie by refusing to let us watch basketball too, which again is an interesting choice, but feels like a missed opportunity. I believe the stakes would be raised and the viewing experience would be more pleasurable if we saw the players' skill and enjoyment of their own abilities. It would have been an irrefutable demonstration of the attractiveness of the game everyone's fighting over. Hi, this is Keir with a brief interruption. We'll be back in a moment with more about High Flying Bird, but first, we need your help.
My God, Keir, I thought we agreed. We had a blood oath. No more pledge drive bits.
This isn't a pledge drive. It's a review drive.
Oh boy.
We launched our Patreon earlier this season and, well, it failed to launch. I get it. Listeners, there are a lot of shows and newsletters and public radio stations asking for your money. Today, all we're asking is that you take one single action to help our show and give us a rating or review. Today, right now.
Okay, that's reasonable. I assume everyone listening to us has already subscribed on their platform of choice or YouTube, I assume.
It only takes 1 minute of your time to take the next step and give us a rating, review, or comment. These things matter. The almighty algorithm rewards user engagement, so this simple act helps more listeners find our show. We need more reviews on Apple Podcasts. We need more ratings on Spotify. We need more subscribers on YouTube. With your help, we can boost all those numbers by the end of today's show.
You do know this isn't live, right?
It is to me. Listeners, we need your help. Act now.
I really hate Pledge Week.
Okay, Mike, time to beat the buzzer. You have 60 seconds to name and recommend as many of your favorite sports movies as possible.
When you say sports movies, you mean like all of sports, right?
Yeah, I mean, we could say basketball movies only or whatever, but I don't know, where's the fun in that? Think of it as the Filmographers, Around the Horn or Morning Drive Sports Zoo, whatever. Sometimes we run a little long on our top fives and stuff, so this time we're just going to get to the point as quickly as possible. These are not ranked. They're not definitive. They're just off the top of our heads, favorite sports movies.
Okay, Soderbergh, are you filming this on your iPhone right now?
Are you ready or not?
Yes, I'm ready. I'm nervous, but I'm ready. Let's do it. All right, 60 seconds. We've got Unnecessary Roughness, Waterboy, Happy Gilmore, The Longest Yard. I mean, a lot of Adam Sandler. The Mighty Ducks. I'm not going to do sequels. Field of Dreams, The Air Up There, The Damned United, Bend It Like Beckham, because you need some soccer movies, and that's really all we got. Bull Durham, Greatest American Screenplay Ever. White Men Can't Jump, Hoosiers, Rocky, The Sandlot, Any Given Sunday, Caddyshack, Golf, Hoop Dreams, Basketball, and Chicago, League of Their Own, Rudy's one, Blue Chips, William Friedkin, Sorry That Happened to You, The Bad News Bears, oh God, what else? I got like 10 seconds, I'm running out, 5, the greatest baseball movie that there is, greatest sports movie ever, Major League. That's it. That's all I got. I didn't count, but I'm proud that I squeezed Unnecessary Roughness in there.
So I thought you were going to do a little bit of like explanation. That was an impressive fucking list. That was a lot of movies. Okay. 60 seconds is a long time when you're just listing movies.
It is a long time. Now this has turned into a competition, by the way.
Well, you're going to win with the quantity.
Well, I was not confident before, but now that I've done it, now I'm but prove me wrong here. Are you ready?
As I'll ever be. Okay, Slapshot, which is like one of my favorite movies of all time. It probably doesn't hold up to the kids today because not PC, but I'm just going to say it's great. Bull Durham, which you can't get past. Unbelievable screenplay, unbelievable performances, stone cold classic. The Damned United, both our lists. Michael Sheen, unbelievable performance. Great book too, by the way. Fat City, boxing movie. I hadn't seen that one since the College Film Society, but I'd love to see it again. I loved it at the time. Raging Bull, boxing, also a sport. Hoop Dreams as well, Chicago classic. We didn't say we couldn't include basketball movies. Miracle, because I am a sucker and a sap, and I'm sorry, it's the quintessential sports movie, underdog story. I love that movie. Shaolin Soccer, one of my all-time favorite movies. Oh my God. The Iron Claw, White Men Can't Jump, The Wrestler, I, Tonya, Big Lebowski. Which is kind of sports.
What? I have one. Yeah, I have one.
Is bowling a sport?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. Well, if we're gonna call bowling a sport, how did you not include any billiard, any pool?
I think that's our game. No, I shouldn't include bowling because I thought about like pool movies are a subgenre that I'm a huge aficionado of, but I ultimately feel, I have to rule out Big Lebowski for bowling because one time I got in a big argument with somebody about this and I was like, so I used to write about pool for Billiards Digest magazine in a past life. I was a columnist and a senior writer for Billiards Digest magazine. And the pool players were always insisting that they were athletes and it was a sport. And I'm like, anything you can do while you drink beer that doesn't appreciably harm your skill is a game, not a sport, right?
Probably, yes.
I mean, that's the way, it's a bit arbitrary, but I think it generally works, which I think is going to rule out, cornhole and bowling as well. But I just feel like pool, as much as I love it, I've got to have to put that in like with chess and other, games.
So do we talk Talladega Nights? In that case, we're all athletes because we all drive cars.
That was a really difficult list, and it reminds me of some sports movies that have been recommended to me that I haven't gotten around to seeing. Our friend Daniel Krause once told me to watch Sugar, and he said it was a phenomenal movie, and I've intended to watch it ever since. And Dan, I'm sorry, I haven't watched it yet, but
I feel like I may have seen Sugar. It's the people who made Half Nelson, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. The early Ryan Gosling movie. Anyway, but yeah, Sugar is a baseball movie that I've always wanted to see. I didn't. So good recommendation, Daniel. Didn't appear on either one of our lists. Sorry.
We'll do better. We'll strive to do better.
We did pretty good. We got some good ones in there, I think.
I do have to say that, some of my picks probably, some listeners may find that those disqualify me from rendering a critical judgment on High Flying Bird, but that's where the chips fall.
Well, I need to see Shaolin Soccer. I've never seen that.
It's so much fun. Your kids will love it.
Oh man. Okay. It almost makes me think of a movie that I love that I think they would love too. Did you ever see Kung Fu Hustle?
Oh yeah. I love that movie as well.
Is it similar? Is it kind of
it's in that vein? It's totally over the top.
Okay, that's fun. I like that. Okay. All right. I'll watch it, and we'll think of other sports movies, I'm sure.
Yeah, at night when we're trying to fall asleep, our eyes will open and we'll say, I wish I would have said this on the podcast.
Semi-pro.
The longest yard. When we come back, we'll discuss how High Flying Bird was made.
Wow, everything's mixed up. We're in like Calvin and Hobbes opposite day territory at this point.
You made a couple movies on iPhones. Was that to prove a point, or because?
No.
Well, I mean, that's a confrontive way to say it. You did an experiment and you found it successful and you were impressed by the results, and it is an option for you. But this movie you just made, you went and found these lenses that were far from an iPhone, and so do those exist on the same plane to you?
Oh, sure, absolutely. In all instances, the motivation is the same, which is to, see if there's some, melange of the real world genre, my own preoccupations, format, form of distribution,
right?
So in the case of the Unsane and High Flying Bird, fascinated by this technology and wanted to see if there were things that I could do with this technology that I couldn't do with any other technology, just to see, like what's possible, what's not possible, what's different. And there were because they were in different formats. It took me 2 movies to really get a feel for that, and my walkaway was, I think both of these are closer to what I wanted than if I'd used quote unquote normal cameras.
The story of how High Flying Bird came together is very interesting and a great illustration of how, mid-career, Soderbergh is comfortable finding ideas in different places and using his wide network of collaborators to turn them into movies. While they were filming season 1 of The Knick, Andre Holland, who played Dr. Algernon Edwards on that show, told Soderbergh he had more ambitious roles in mind than the ones he was regularly being offered. And Soderbergh told him, well, you're probably going to have to make your own stuff.
Very honest, and I love that. And it's just advice that Soderbergh regularly gives people. He told the founders of the Slam Dance Film Festival to just go for it and not ask permission. And that usually works. It's the same thing with the Duplass brothers. It's the most tried and true and honest answer about making art, and is that the cavalry is not coming. Look in the mirror. You are the cavalry. You've all you got. Go figure it out.
And it's better to ask for, forgiveness than permission.
Definitely.
So Soderbergh and Holland started talking about possible projects, and one of their recurring conversational themes was the economics of sports. As Soderbergh told The Hollywood Reporter, "We were both excited about the idea of a project that basically gave you a look behind the kimono of how these large-scale sports leagues function, and to ask the question of how we all feel about the commoditization of athletes." End quote. Soderbergh, a sports fan, had always felt uncomfortable when broadcasts cut to shots of the owners' boxes and he could see white owners looking down at the men in the arena below, especially basketball, where most of the players are black.
And, going back to your point earlier, he wanted to make a movie about the business of the game without ever showing viewers the game itself.
Curse you and your highfalutin ideas, Soderbergh.
He got you.
Anyway, after season 1 of The Knick wrapped, he and Holland wrote a one-page outline about an NBA lockout, a what-if scenario with a condensed time frame. Soderbergh wanted to use The Sweet Smell of Success, Alexander McKendrick's 1957 film noir, as a template, and Holland suggested reaching out to playwright and screenwriter Terrell Alvin McCraney, with whom he was making Moonlight. McCraney liked it, but wasn't ready to work on it right away because Moonlight, the film for which he would share an Oscar for writing, was still in production. McCraney worked on the script for the next 2 years on spec, without pay, but don't worry, all three got back-end profit participation. And the script he delivered was more or less what they shot. Soderbergh said they did an afternoon's worth of polishing before they started shooting, but that was it. In February 2018, High Flying Bird was announced with a reported budget of $2 million. It was shot over the course of 3 weeks in late February and March of that year.
And in addition to that, just like Unsane, he shot this one on an iPhone as well for around the same budget, which kind of blows me away. I don't know about you, like High Flying Bird, if you watch the two back to back, High Flying Bird seems way more expensive than Unsane. It's just the production values to me in Bird are a lot higher. They seem a lot higher.
Yeah, absolutely. But remember, this is an iPhone 8.
Oh, I get it. Okay, well, correct. I stand corrected. So now
It's very simple.
copy that. So film nerds, unlike me, film nerds who don't like to geek out on the tech specs might want to skip forward a minute or two, but I find this stuff pretty interesting. And I think the stuff we talked about with Unsane was pretty interesting too, about lenses and a little bit of how they function. Unsane, which was shot on the iPhone 7 Plus it had 3 additional lenses made by Moment, 18 millimeters, 60 millimeter, and fisheye. That camera in Unsane, it looks like it was made in an iPhone. Like that movie, you can pretty readily tell. It's gritty, it's claustrophobic. So it, like we said before, it for the most part works really well. Now, High Flying Bird, on the other hand, has a lot of scenes that take place in glassy, nice, polished high rises. It needed a glossier look. So Soderbergh used 3 256 gig iPhone 8 Pluses that were equipped with anamorphic lenses made by Mood Dog Labs. Anamorphic lenses squeeze the images horizontally to capture wider aspect ratios. Basically, they made it look more like a movie. And that was the problem that both of us had with Unsane, is that like it wasn't doing that squeezing. It was giving, the Ys were giving more of that curvature that you don't want, and that there's a little bit of that in Bird, but even still, as I was, getting to right now, there are moments, to me, it looks a lot better, but there are still moments in Bird where it looks a little bit off. Yeah. You can still see the wide angle shots just don't look quite there. There's still that little bit of curvature. It's better in Bird. It's definitely better. But I think at times visually apparent, But anyway, my opinions aside, there was a jump in technology, and with the iPhone going up a iteration and the lenses that were starting to be made specifically for it, and availability, a little bit more apps that he can use, there was a jump. So Soderbergh also, in addition to all this, used a camera control app called Filmic Pro, which allowed him to bypass a lot of the factory settings made by Apple and Cupertino, I'm assuming is how
It's Cupertino.
Cupertino. Yeah. He could shoot at a higher bit rate, manually control focus and tone, and just a bunch of other cool stuff that's, obviously helped contribute to the more polished look of the film. Apparently, the files are also encoded differently, which allows for more manipulation and editing.
So what you're saying essentially is that Soderbergh's iPhone movie is going to look a lot better than my iPhone movie.
Yes. To get that better look, you wouldn't have to spend an insane or unsane. I'll show myself out, and that's when Keir took over. Amount of money to catch up. Now, the iPhone 8 Plus was not the latest gen iPhone at the time, but some of the fancy updates on the newer iPhones feature stuff called computational smart HDR and dynamic tone mapping, which were apparently less predictable to work with.
Soderbergh insisted that using iPhones was not a stunt, but a test to see what he could do differently with them. Certainly, there were no complex camera rigs. He talked about how he could put them anywhere he wanted, even taping them to a wall or Velcroing them to the ceiling. Sometimes he used tiny bendy tripods called Joby Mini Gorilla Pods. I actually have one of those. They cost $15 each. Instead of laying dolly track, he would operate the camera while being pushed in a wheelchair. To stabilize the extremely lightweight camera, he used a DJI Osmo mobile stabilizer. And as usual, he shot with mostly available light using a single 12 by 12 LED panel every 3 or 4 shots. So it's not like he didn't use lighting.
He's just really indulging.
And of course, it allowed Soderbergh to work fast, something he prizes almost above all else. He had a small crew and no trailers he needed to park. He could quickly slip in and out of the locations he wanted without shutting them down for long periods of time. This movie had a lot of dialogue-heavy scenes. Remember, it was written by a playwright, in skyscrapers and restaurants. And in a 2-shot, he would sometimes aim a different camera at each actor and then just stick them on the table using the Gorilla Pods. Shooting wrapped on March 15th, 2018. Now, we know Soderbergh edits as he goes. Mike, do you have any guesses as to how much time passed before he had a first cut ready for viewing?
I'm going to say the same day.
You got it. Within hours. They wrapped at 1:09 p.m. The first cut was done at 3:31 p.m. Someone tweeted it.
Well, that must be true.
Somebody in the production.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that's about 2.5 hours. And look, I'm going to be honest with you, Keir. I am having a hard time believing that's possible. I know we're talking about a rough cut, or even not even a rough cut, an assembly cut, probably.
Yeah.
So people know it's like the assembly cut, rough cut, polish, etc. And I'm sure there's an emphasis on the roughness of it, or rather how it's assembled. Now, I'm not calling Soderbergh a liar.
Oh, snap.
I am not.
Give him the rock.
It was tweeted. I can't call him a liar. It's out there, But I struggle with the math, and I'm sure most of it was already cut, and he shot the last bit, and then he just cut that little bit, and that was done. Because the math of cutting a 2-hour movie in 2.5 hours, that's defying time and space a little bit.
Yeah, I think what you just posited is exactly what happened. I think he had it 95% cut by that last day. And they shot a half day that last day. And so he just had to wrap up the last little bit. And yes, it's a rough cut or an assembly cut. But that is what's possible when you film, as he did on this shoot, for 9 hours, logging your favorite takes as you go, then go back to your apartment and cut the day's footage together. So he would do that every day. Since he's marking his favorite takes, he's not reviewing 39 different takes. We know he works fast, so he didn't have that many takes to look at. So he's been assembling this cut day by day, every night as he goes. And interestingly, at this point, he was still using Avid, an older platform he'd used to edit, way back on Out of Sight, with Ann Coates, the Academy-winning editor, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Each night, he would upload the files to his producers, who included Holland, so they could watch it. And then he would reward himself by watching a movie or reading a book.
He is more movie than man.
Yeah, and by the way, 8 days later, on March 23rd, Unsane was released.
He is a machine. He's the movie-nator. He's just a movie-making machine.
Hi, it's Keir and Mike again. We hope you're enjoying our discussion of Steven Soderbergh's High Flying Bird and our favorite sports flicks. Have you given us a rating or review yet? If not, please hit pause right now and do it.
Watching or listening on YouTube? Leave us a comment. Tell us good job or keep trying, you ding-dongs, or better yet, tell us what your favorite sports movies are. We really, truly would love to know.
We would. There are so many good ones we couldn't squeeze into the allotted 60 seconds, even though we tried heroically.
Can we get back to the show now?
We can, as long as everyone listening or watching has left us a rating, review, or comment.
There's no way to check that. This episode has not been released.
Well, let's just wait another moment to give them time to do it.
That's what the pause button is for. Thanks in advance, and on with the show.
It felt to me, in thinking about where we wanted to show the movie, it just felt very much like a slam dance film to me because of its whole kind of DIY origins. You know, Andre Holland and Terrell McCraney and I talking about this story, working on it over the course of several years, and we finally had a script ready to go. I said, let's go. Like, we're going to pay for it, and we're just going to do it. And that's in line with the don't ask permission. I think none of us just felt like asking anybody if we could. We just wanted to go and do it.
Mike, talk us through the release of High Flying Bird.
Well, several films ago, before his 2-month retirement, Soderbergh did a TV and streaming release when he did Behind the Candelabra for HBO. When he came back with Logan Lucky, he formed his own company, Fingerprint Releasing, with which he attempted to do wide theatrical releases that were more cost-effective than the typical Hollywood studio model. He tweaked his approach and tried again with Unsane and concluded, and this is a quote, "You need all the money that they are spending. The amount of money you need to create awareness for something that is going to go out in 2,500 or 3,000 screens is just significantly higher than I hoped, and much more than we had. It was merely an attempt to open up another lane. The whole point was to do what studios were doing, but for less. It just didn't work."
Steve, I have Netflix on extension 365.
I love that reference. Good job. Now, Soderbergh had actually been talking to Netflix about Unsane, even though it didn't go further. He told them they had something else in the works and would give them an early look. They looked, they liked, they bought it. In September 2018, Deadline reported that Netflix had bought global rights to High Flying Bird in an, quote, an eye-catching deal. As Soderbergh told this Hollywood Reporter, he felt like for this movie, it was the best way to find the people who would like it. It's another quote. There are a lot of philosophical debates going on about all of this distribution stuff. The bottom line is, you are never going to settle on a universal field theory of how this should or shouldn't work because every movie is different. As soon as you think, I've got that algorithm, you'll run into a movie that will blow it up. Every movie needs to be addressed individually. They're not automobiles.
He's a machine, and he's also a quote machine.
He is. He premiered the film on February 8th, 2019, not at Sundance, where Sex, Lies, and Videotape had won an audience award, but at Slamdance, the film festival's low-budget cousin. But he's had a long relationship with Slamdance, also premiering Schizopolis and Everything is Going Fine there. And this is cool, they gave him the Slamdance Founders Award for his support over the years, so which is nice. It's nice. Well earned.
That is nice.
It is a little bit ironic that they gave him the award 4 years after they gave it to Christopher Nolan, given that Soderbergh helped launch Nolan's career.
Maybe Nolan was available that year. I don't know how these things work. I found a funny tidbit while I was doing research. Apparently, while Soderbergh's doing all these iPhone experiments, Nolan asked him when he was planning to go back to shooting on film. And Soderbergh asked Nolan when he was planning to go back to writing his scripts with a pencil.
Whoa. Wow. That's
Snap.
I know. Burn.
Burn.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. And we talk about this, God, we can talk about this so long because it's so fascinating. We talked about this bit last episode that like there is this kind of, there is this rigidity, and it's not a bad rigidity, but it's a rigidity of like the Tarantinos and the Nolans who are the purists, and they need to carry that torch. I totally get it, of shooting on film, or if they're not shooting on film, shooting specifically for IMAX. I mean, the way that like, you know, Tarantino made Hateful Eight in this really specific way, and it looks great.
Yes.
The 70 millimeter, like Hateful Eight, get out of town. You know,
Looks
like,
fantastic.
yeah, like absolutely. But, you know, the weird thing is we enjoy, and I'm sure there's a lot that we can unpack that'll take longer than we have, but we enjoy seeing the Hateful Eight, you know, when it comes at a road show and it's going to play at the Music Box Theater here in Chicago, and we'll go see it. But like, what about everybody else? You know, like, what about people who don't have 70 millimeter theaters, which are most everybody.
Most parts of the country. Yes.
Yeah, 100%. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't do it. Again, there's these weird push-pull relationship going on here. But like, Soderbergh could very well have that exclusivity in a sense, to make 70 millimeter, to shoot on film, have it cost more and take longer, and etc. But he is just, I'm not trying to say Soderbergh's a man of the people, you know, like, because I don't think that's the point, but he's also just doing stuff that like allows him to do more and to be more just widely accessible.
Yeah, accessibility is so key with him. He really does think about how the films are going to reach the most people. That's often why he ends up making the decision he makes regarding distribution or something. I mean, obviously, some of his experiments haven't paid off, but he's trying to kind of optimize everything both for the filmmaker and for the audience. And, you know, I am all for the people who are doing things to make film a theatrical event where it's exciting to go to the theater and the screens are bigger and the quality is excellent. I am all for that. I love it. I love 70 millimeter film festivals. I love IMAX. I love, you know, big movies with big sound systems and, you know, comfortable seats and all that stuff. But we need everybody. We need all these filmmakers, because it's true that most people are going to be experiencing most films these days from the comfort of their own couch.
Yeah. I mean, it's flyover country syndrome, right? Because, you know, we're like, well, we're going to make all these 70 millimeter and IMAX. And IMAX are proliferating more, you know, because, I mean, even those IMAXs are not all of them are great. But you get to like, well, LA and Chicago, New York, you know, have all these, you know, 70 mil in the New Beverly, and they have, you know, the New York Film Forum, and you have the Music Box, and you have all these places that'll show it, and they'll pack the house every night. But then, you know, everybody else, you know, like, and you still need film fans, you need cinephiles, you need people who are passionate about movies, and sometimes they're going to find those movies on Netflix, and sometimes they're going to find it at the Music Box. But if you're only doing the one thing, one way or the other, like the experience of awe of seeing a 70 millimeter film, you need that as much as you need, hey, I'm a, you know, 16-year-old kid, and I was funneling through Netflix, and I found, you know, Logan Lucky, and it made an impression on me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So where were we? What movie were we talking about? No,
You're
I know.
Tell us how much Netflix paid for High Flying Bird.
Well, the thing is, we actually don't know how much. Yeah, Netflix is very, very tight-lipped about if it involves a number. They are not telling you. Yeah, so we don't know how much, you know, Netflix paid or how much the creators earned, but it's safe to say they made back their $2 million budget and then some. This is still the era when streamers were overpaying for everything, you know, a distant 5 years ago.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
When they were more judicious and they overpaid for good things. And
Yes.
we still talk about them years later instead of whatever, the soap opera from Ecuador that was hot for 7 hours. Anyway, Keir, what did other people who weren't involved in the Filmographers, what did they think about High Flying Bird?
Well, the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is only 49%, but critics mostly give it positive reviews, earning it a 91% rating. But I do think the tomato meter is a bit misleading on this one because not too many of the reviews are raves. Like there are a few raves, and a lot of people really liked it. And there are also a lot that are just kind of like respectful of the project and focus on how interesting it is. So I think it actually, more than anything, kind of points to the flaw in that whole, Rotten Tomatoes kind of model, because things have to be classified as like positive or negative, and most criticism is more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
Any rate, I think it is safe to say that it was critically well received, widely so. The best blurb, in my mind, comes from Guy Lodge in The Guardian, who wrote, Soderbergh's liveliest, most big-thinking work since Magic Mike. This is a quick, zingy, all-business sports drama that plays like Jerry Maguire with twin degrees in economics and sociology. Dan Coyce of Slate agreed. Like Ray, Soderbergh plays the game while also undermining it. Like Ray, High Flying Bird is a revolutionary wearing a beautiful suit. Nice line. Andrew Chow of Time sort of agreed with me. He wrote, High Flying Bird could be called an anti-sports movie. Its goal is not to uplift, but rather to provoke, mobilize, and envision a future in which the players themselves own the league. And Linda Holmes of NPR went full NPR, but she is not wrong. She wrote, quote, or actually probably said, because it's radio, she said, it's the kind of film you can have a long conversation about at the end, trying to figure out who is right, who is going to prevail, and what would have to change to bring about the future Ray is trying to create. And finally, Chris Nashawati, who wrote a fun book about Caddyshack, called a foul in Entertainment Weekly. Quote, the stakes never feel quite as high as the hyperventilating Soderbergh and McCraney think they are, especially if you've had a passing interest in professional sports any time over the past 20 years. Which I guess is a take that, maybe a valid critique. I think Soderbergh is a sports fan, but there's also people who are like immersed in the world of sports who might feel like, oh yeah, these Hollywood people and this fancy playwright come in and they're purporting to like lecture us on what we see and know, but it's all about audience. I would say that the message of High Flying Bird is probably very thought-provoking for most of the people who would see it, because most people don't spend enough time thinking about these issues.
God forbid they learn about college sports. Like
air horn. Well, before we go, I want to share a few final thoughts about what I think makes this a quintessential Soderbergh film. As you have often pointed out this season, Mike, Soderbergh is all about the little guy versus the man, or the individual against the corporation, or, as Henry Barnes phrased it in The Guardian, the individual chipping away at the status quo. I think that is absolutely present here as a theme. And the story at its heart, Ray's attempts to get around the NBA's business as usual, mirrors Soderbergh's ongoing attempts to rethink Hollywood's business as usual, whether it comes to filmmaking or distribution. He always asks himself, do we have to do it this way? Can we do it differently? So in a way, maybe Soderbergh sees something of himself in Ray. And lastly, Andre Holland himself nailed it when he told one interviewer, quote, and it matches what the film is about, taking control of your own creative process and being able to get the product to the people with as little buffer in the middle as possible, end quote.
Yeah, I mean, that's Soderbergh in a nutshell. And I wish I had more to add, but that's so perfectly said. I mean, I just love, and I'm ashamed to admit, I didn't really think about that, like how it mirrors Soderbergh, the idea, I mean, just how deeply cynical some of the stuff that happens in High Flying Bird is. And a reminder, it's like, these are people, and it, like I said, it humanizes it. And a reminder that like something as simple as like, they own their likeness, these are, why do we have to debate that, right? And they can do stuff with it, and they can endorse things, and they can be their own individual. And I think that's something it's such always at war in art, you know, that like the commodification of things makes you as a creator, whatever it is, like kind of turns it into a factory, right? It's like, just make the especially now, make the content, make the thing, just keep going. I mean, you and I, and we've talked about this before, we are both professional working writers. And we have seen this burnout, like in this need. I mean, for us to survive, and this is not a complaint. I'm very grateful for what I do, and I love what I do, and I know you do too. But for us to survive, like, we need to make a lot. We need to work a lot, and it's kind of almost like a cattle run, what's it called? When they're bringing cattle to one place, to a cattle drive. Yeah. You know, just pushing you along and just getting you to where you need to be. And now we're here, and it's like, okay, time to turn back, you know, and do it again. And I think that's something, amongst other things, that Soderbergh's fighting against. You know, he doesn't want to be the cattle. He doesn't want to be constantly just making the content and moving on to the next content. Like, while he does work at such a rapid pace, as, you know, kind of, I think we do too, like, he cares about all the things that he does, and he wants to care, and he wants other people to care. He wants the things to be cared about. And that's something that the players are struggling with. It's like, they just want their economic peace, which is a big part of it, but you get your economic peace and you get your equity by people caring about you, caring enough about you to say, yes, from the owner's perspective, you are a person, which, you know, plays into the race analogy, you know, like, you are a person and you have value. And what we do here is built because of you as a person. And we cannot sell sneakers and jerseys and fill stadiums and do all these things without you and who you are. You're not just a commodity. You're not just content. You're more than that. And then you deserve your share, and you deserve a say, and you deserve a seat at the table. Soderbergh wants the same thing creatively. It's something we all strive for creatively, but it often gets so in the machinations of creating art and business and sports falls into that bucket as well. Those things just get so taken for granted and exploited so much that you have to always fighting against it.
There's a great scene where Ray is addressing these kids at the backcourt day or whatever, and he's kind of thrust in this position. He doesn't want to be speaking, but Bill Duke's character kind of pushes him out there, and he's thinking back to his cousin who didn't make it, which is an interesting theme in the movie. He had a talented cousin who had a secret and didn't make it, and we're never really fully given that story. We can infer certain things, but basically Ray is telling these kids, like, you know, some of you are going to break out, some of you aren't, some of you are, you know, you're going to grow 6 inches and you're going to become a pro. Some of you are going to get overlooked. Some of you are going to meet your potential. Some of you won't. But as long as you can remember your passion for the game, you'll be okay. And I think that holds true for art as well. Certainly Soderbergh, as we say, you know, he is somebody who makes a ton of work, but I don't think, you know, certainly past the point of the underneath, I don't think he's ever taken a project that he didn't want to do and that he didn't invest himself fully in. And I think that is really the only way to avoid burnout.
Yeah, I agree. And he finds, like we said, something that he loves and something that keeps him going with each project and makes him reignites his passion, whether it's shooting on an iPhone or, you know, finding a new distribution model or whatever the case may be, like it was with these last 3 films. And I think it's pretty inspiring.
And he said that, you know, he didn't burn out artistically so much as the business burned him out. And that was why he stepped away briefly. And when he came back, he was trying to reinvent the business, and he's still trying to reinvent the business and make accommodations. And now that he's doing all this, you know, streaming and stuff, he seems like, well, as long as I can make my movies and get them to an audience, that's, you know, he's at peace.
Yeah, I think it's a good place to be.
Before we wrap up today, I just want to offer my heartfelt thanks to all of you listeners for your support of the Filmographers podcast. Whether you gave us a 5-star rating, a thoughtful review, or just commented to share some of your favorite sports movies, thank you. We appreciate it. And if you didn't do any of those things, do them now so you don't have to feel guilty about being thanked for something you didn't do.
Yeah, and we'll read your reviews or comments on the next episode we record. So in a way, you'll be a guest. And as a matter of fact, here, I'll go off script for a minute because we actually had 2 great comments in our heist that come to mind. We had Philip Sevi, who commented on our top 5 heists, he mentioned one that he likes a lot, The Bank Job with Jason Statham, which is a really good movie.
Oh, nice choice there.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect it to be it's not a Jason Statham movie in the sense that what you expect of a Jason Statham movie. And it's funny because it wasn't a very successful film. And there's this kind of glimmer of like what could have been, because he's really good in it. And the movie is really good. It's stylish. It's cool. It's a 70s, vibe. It's really good. And he's good in it. It underperformed. And then he made all the Fast and the Furious heist movies as well. And then Mark Stevens, our good friend Mark, mentioned a movie that I'm kind of ashamed that I left off that could have easily been in the top 5, Hell or High Water.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. As a class warrior ingrained in me, I can't believe I didn't pick that movie. It's one of the best. I think it's one of the top 10 of this century.
Cool pick, Mark.
Yeah, I agree. So there you go. We will read them.
Yes, get in touch. You can reach us on Instagram at The Filmographers, on X at FilmographerPod, and on Letterboxd at Filmographers. Or just send us a good old-fashioned email at thefilmographerspodcast@gmail.com.
And one last time, if you enjoy our podcast, and I'm assuming you do if you've made it this far, please take a moment right now to show your support by giving us a quick rating or review on your podcast platform of choice. It is so hard for a new podcast to find its audience. You'll be doing us a huge favor when you let other people know about us. Remember, people can't listen if they can't find us, and every little rating and review helps our visibility. Please do it now. We thank you.
And thanks, as always, to Kevin Lau, our producer, Gompson, who composed and played our theme music, and Cosmo Graff, who designed our logo. Join us next time on the Filmographers Podcast when we'll discuss Soderbergh's next Netflix effort, a star-studded movie about the Panama Papers.